America and our allies will never be intimidated. We will defend our people, our nations, and our civilization from all who dare to threaten our way of life. This includes the regime of North Korea.
Service says North Korea has just fired off another missile, believed to be one ballistic missile. It says the missile traveled eastward from Pyongyang. That would send it toward Japan. The missile launch comes hours after North Korea threatened to sink Japan into the sea with a nuclear weapon,
which has once again shown its utter contempt for its neighbors and for the entire world community. After seeing your capabilities and commitment here today, I am more confident than ever that our options in addressing this threat are both effective and overwhelming.
As Kim Jong-un's most recent missile launch demonstrates, North Korea remains one of the world's most urgent and dangerous security problems. It is vital that all nations work together to do our utmost to solve that problem. With that, I'll turn it over to Ambassador Haley.
Thank you very much. And I will tell you that next week is not going to be short on topics. I think, first of all, we can all say it is a new day at the UN. The UN has shifted over the past several months. It's not just about talking, it's about action.
My question is about North Korea, which is perhaps the biggest foreign policy challenge for President Trump right now. About a month ago, the president issued a threat to North Korea. He warned of fire and fury. And as you know, Ambassador, at the UN Security Council, you've imposed tougher sanctions on North Korea. Both of these efforts do not seem to be changing their behavior. Is it time for the U.S. to change its approach to North Korea? Is that something that you're contemplating? And General, if you could weigh on this as well, I appreciate it.
I think what was really important with North Korea was that we try and push through as many diplomatic options as we have. If you look at the resolutions that have passed in the last month, the two of them, they cut 30% of the oil. They banned all the laborers. They banned 90% of the exports. They banned joint ventures. We've basically taken it, and in the words of North Korea, we have strangled their economic situation at this point. That's going to take a little bit of time, but it has already started to take effect. What we are seeing is they continue to be provocative, they continue to be reckless, and at that point, there's not a whole lot the Security Council is going to be able to do from here when you've cut 90% of the trade and 30% of the oil. So having said that, I have no problem kicking it to General Mattis because I think he has plenty of options.
General, can you weigh in on that too?
No, I just emphasize the point that Ambassador Haley made. These sanctions are just now taking effect. What's really important is rigorous enforcement of those sanctions so that we can really let the economic actions and diplomacy progress as best we can. But I think we ought to make clear what's different about this approach is that we're out of time, right? As Ambassador Haley said before, we've been kicking the can down the road and we're out of road. And so for those who have said and have been commenting about the lack of a military option, there is a military option. Now, it's not what we would prefer to do. So what we have to do is call on all nations, call on everyone to do everything we can to address this global problem short of war. So that is implementing now these significant sanctions that have just now gone into place, and it is convincing everyone to do everything that they can, and that it's in their interest to do it. What's different, I think, about this approach to North Korea is worth noting. First of all, there is consensus among all key nations that denuclearization of the peninsula is the only acceptable objective. The second thing is, this is not an issue between the United States and North Korea. This is an issue between the world and North Korea. And the third recognition is there is a lot that we can do about it together. And so we need time, obviously, for any strategy to work. It is a sound approach to a very difficult problem, and we'll see if it succeeds.
To you on North Korea, obviously there's more UN Security Council action that could be taken. Are you at all hopeful that there is any chance for a full oil embargo as this administration had wanted? Or at what point President Trump himself said this was a small step, the last UN Security Council vote? I think disagreeing with you, but Secretary Tillerson agreed with him that it seemed to have been a small step. So at what point does this administration take a bigger step and, for example, put tougher sanctions on China in order to put pressure on North Korea?
Well, I think, first of all, let's talk about what a big sanctions resolution this was. The first one was $1 billion. This second one was $1.3 billion, not counting the 30% decrease in oil. We did a 55, and just imagine if this happened to the United States, a 55% reduction in diesel and oil. Overall ban of natural gas, overall ban of any substitutes, overall ban of textiles, stopping the laborer program, which we call as modern day slavery, stopping all joint ventures so foreign investment goes in there. We have cut off now 90% of trade going into North Korea, and they are saying that this was strangling. So, you know, whether some believe it's big or small, I think what the president's saying is this is just the beginning of what we can do. So it's going to be, by the time we get going on this, if we have to go further, this is going to look small compared to what we do. But no, it was a massive sanctions bill. And I think the fact that we had a 15-0 record and you have China on board and Russia on board, I think that's very important. We've cut 30% of the oil. Is there more you can do? There's always more you can do. But then you get into the humanitarian aspect of it, which is at what point are you going and actually hurting down to the people of North Korea? But we will always explore all options that we have. Yes, sir.
Ambassador, two quick questions. The first one is the fact that President Putin and President Xi Jinping won't be there. Will it have an impact on what the outcome of whatever you'll discuss on Syria and North Korea?
I do think that it's still going to be strong and have an impact because you've got two very strong foreign ministers from Russia and China that are going to be there. And the idea that we're going to be talking about Syria and North Korea and Iran and all of those other things, I think it'll be serious discussions. And I think the fact that President Xi and President Putin couldn't be there is not going to change the effect of what the talks that we have next week.
Going to show up?
That's their choice to not show up.
Yeah, I would just add on to say the UN General Assembly is not a substitute for bilateral relationships with any nations. And as you know, the president's been working very closely, especially with President Xi, on this common problem and this world problem of North Korea. So those discussions will continue, and they'll continue in the context of multilateral engagements, but also in context of our bilateral relationship with China.
For 7 decades, the United States Air Force has pushed the boundaries of science and technology, helped restore peace and stability to troubled lands, and kept Americans safe from those who threaten our very way of life. Nothing inspires more confidence in our friends or strikes more fear in the hearts of our enemies than the sight of American warplanes on the horizon. You patrol the sky, protect the homeland, and deliver American justice to anyone who dares to threaten our people. From the earliest wooden biplanes to the high-tech UAVs to the awesome power and stunning beauty of the F-35, B-2, F-22, and I saw a lot of them today, the F-15, the F-16, the F-18. I don't know which one I like the most. But our aviators have given America total dominance of the air and space, no matter where we fly. Now, when our enemies hear the F-35 engines, when they're roaring overhead, their souls will tremble and they will know the day of reckoning has arrived. That is the way it's been since 1947, when the Air Force was born, during a time of monumental change and uncertainty in the world. Unconditional victory in World War II had come at a terrible price. Millions of lives had been lost, empires had collapsed, and much of Europe laid in ruin. The threat of global communism emerged from the void, left by defeated foes, and the free nations of the world once again looked to the United States to secure the peace. It was at this crucial moment that America established the Air Force as a separate military service and a truly great military service. And from that moment, America has dominated both air and space like no other nation in history. Our air superiority is unquestioned, not merely because we have the best equipment, but because we have the best people by far.